Good morning, good morning, good morning. Listen, this is kind of different than what Ronnie and I normally do. Welcome out there, Facebook, YouTube land. You are witnessing a live taping, live taping early in the morning of the Ronnie and Yashika's dating discussions. And to lead up to Christmas, we are doing the 12 days till Christmas so that we can bring you guys some helpful information so that as we go into the new year and then Valentine's Day and things like that, we will start to adopt, or shall I say, understand different perspectives when it comes to dating. Because you guys know how this works. A lot of times we do things and we do a habitual and don't realize that we're in a very relaxed state of doing things, and we don't realize if we're doing them inappropriately because we've been doing them that way for so long. So Ronnie and I thought we would bring you guys something for the next 12 days to kind of just get you guys, just kind of maybe redirecting your mindset. And so we are in block one, day one of dating mindset of the 12 days of Christmas. And this block is dating mindset. And today we're talking about emotion regulation. And again, I am Yasheka Foster, affectionately known as the Artist of Dating, and I empower successful women to date through self-discovery to find love and partners, life partners, while finding balance for it all. Ronnie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Yashika, and good morning to everyone tuning in today, and for those that will be tuning in later, after they've had their or during their first cup of coffee or second, as it is. My name is Ronnie Walker. I'm your master coach of exceptional dating, relationships, and sex, and I pretty much deal with dating and all of that from a self-development standpoint. So this 12 days, I'm looking forward to this. Yet another brainstorm of Yashika to bring you all some real quality content. So we've really worked hard on this, and I'm sure that it will add some value moving forward, going into the holidays and into the Day of Love, otherwise known as Valentine's Day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're gonna get right into it. And so again, like I said, we're talking about emotion regulation. And I thought this was a very good thing to discuss to open up this 12 days to Christmas because when we're talking about our emotions a lot of times, I know for me, I'm that person that matter of fact, I had a reading done on myself the other day, a whole body composite or body analysis, and what she told me, and shout out to Kiera Flipping for that. What she told me was because I am what did she say, a manifester, right? And because I'm a manifester, for me to really show up in my best self, I should never make decisions when I'm in any type of emotional state. And so the way she explained it to me, it doesn't matter if I'm happy, mad, sad, or glad. I need to be at calm with everything before I make a decision because the way she explained it to me is that if I'm angry and I make a decision and be like, you know what, I'm out of here, I'm done. I'm saying it from an angry perspective, and I don't really mean that. But then on the flip side of that, she says, even if I'm like living my best life and somebody says, hey, let's meet up tomorrow and keep on partying, I'll be like, yeah, let's meet up tomorrow. She said, even then, I'll wake up the next day and like, wow, why did I tell them that? Because, you're in the moment, you feel, you hyped or whatever. So you'll make plans or make a decision when in actuality, that wasn't the best time for me to make the decision. And so I just thought that this would be a really great topic to go into the dating mindset for the 12 days till Christmas. And so, just to get a little idea of what a healthy emotion looks like, and this is not me. I didn't create this. This is from a group that I'm in, entitled Stare, and they talked about emotional regulation and the way they defined it as far as a healthy one. And I'm going to read it directly from the print that way I don't misunderstand anything. And pretty much what it's saying is noticing and identifying the emotions that we experience. Other words, don't deny them. If we're happy, accept the fact that we're happy. Go through that emotion. If we're sad, accept the fact that we're sad, identify it, and go through that motion. And accept it, accepting of all emotions, regardless, happy, mad, sad, or glad, right? And then another thing is healthy emotion regulation means you're able to respond to negative or intense emotions in a way that is consistent with who you are and your values. In other words, if you know that you're not the kind of person that says things that's hurtful or threatening to people, because it doesn't align with your values, because maybe you're against crime in general, then don't say those things when you're mad, right? Don't say, I'm going to do this to you, I'm going to do that to you. Identify your emotions, accept it, and make judgments or make decisions based on your values and not taken away from who you are. And then the last part of what a healthy emotional regulation looks like is using multiple ways to cope with it. So, for me, I'm a runner. So when I'm going through some things or I have some things on my mind and they're unsettling and they're causing me to be out of character, to emotion, to my emotions all over the place, I like to go for a run. That helps me, but I know that that's one of my coping mechanisms. You know what I mean? And I also know the opposite of that. That when I don't run or I don't work out in any kind of way where I get my heart rate up for a period of time, I start feeling more stress. My emotions are all over the place because it's like a buildup. You know what I mean? And so, in terms of emotional regulation, Ronnie, what are some areas that you see that people really show that and that they really need to be mindful of when in terms of themselves and dealing with other people, relationships, or whatever?
Well, this is, well, just let me start by saying, for those of you taking notes, and even if you aren't, I suggest that you do, because when Yashika and I got together to put this program together, we knew a lot of what we're going to discuss in the order it is discussed and shared with you all is very intentional. And anyone who knows and who has coached with me or even follow me in any of the platforms that I'm on, I'm always speaking about working on the inside. So when I say dating from a self-development standpoint, it starts with the inside. And one of the challenges that Yashika and I run across so often when we're speaking to couples or speaking to single people is that they focus so much on the outside. And we know society is always about the outside, looking great when you're young, no matter what age you are. You look 20 when you're really 80, all this kind of stuff. And all that's fine. But if you're not working on the inside and your emotional states and being able to manage that, when we talk about emotional maturity and things of this nature, it's very important. So here Yashika talked about first, and I speak of this, is just being honest about your emotions. Acknowledge that. Because, see, far too often we make decisions in anything, but especially when it comes to dating or talking about the space of dating and in the middle of, say, a relationship conflict, as it may be sometimes, if you're not in the right state, then you can find yourself making a very drastic mistake in that sometimes you can't come back from, or the other person can't come back from. So you have to make sure that this is where, if it means stepping away, and just letting the person know, look, right now I'm not in the right frame of mind to discuss this. If maybe a certain trigger happened, so acknowledging your emotion at that time. Other ways, as she mentioned, she runs. For others, it may be meditation. For others, it may be martial arts. For others, exercise. Things of this nature that will help you do that. So I come across this a lot, Yashika, and it amazes me still how people will still fight putting in that inside work. So, there's nothing more that I could really add on to what you shared because this is literally the foundation. Acknowledge it, be honest about it, and then come up with coping ways in which you can regulate this so that as you move forward, you can come back in a much more positive space. Because one of the ways when we talk about self love is just not about sealing everybody out and only working on you. Don't forget, you're still measured by the relationships that you keep and maintain. This is the way people look at you. And if you're maintaining them in a healthy way, then I can assure you, for the single people, you will have a much better experience as you go out there and date.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you said something that really stuck with me when you said that sometimes people, if they do things in an emotional state, whether it's something they do or they say it, sometimes they can't come back from it. And that happens often, especially in relationships, whether
Yes.
it's a marriage or a dating or, siblings or parents or whatever. People will say things that it's really hard to come back from, and,
Yes.
and to me, it puts me in the mind of what they say, a drunk person speaks a sober person's mind.
Yeah.
So when
Hmm.
someone says things to me and they say that, well, I was upset or it was in a moment, I can't come back from it because that means that that's really how they felt because they're in that moment they're the equivalent to that drunk person. and they said what they wanted to say, and apparently it was a thought that they had of me anyway. You know what I mean? But that's the equivalent to a drunk person saying a sober person's mind, speaking a sober person's mind. So that's how I see it. And so when in terms of emotional regulation, we're not just talking about, what you say, it's what you do, it's how you perceive things. Because even when you are emotional about something and someone says something to you, you're going to still hear what you want to hear, right? So that's part of it as well, not just your actions or what you say verbally. It's also the way you receive things, the way you perceive things. And so we have to really be aware of what state of mind we're in when we're doing certain things, because it could cause some lasting damage.
Hmm.
Um, and I know for a fact that I've experienced that a few times in my life, whether I was the receiver or I was the giver. And I've said things to people in relationships, especially in marriages. And I had to think about it. I mean, I don't recall saying anything too harsh, but I know that I've said some things and it was based on emotion, and just like some things were said to me that were based on emotion. And I felt that it was what they always wanted to say. And so for that particular incident, when I think about it, there was no coming back from it. It was literally no coming, like they say, the straw that broke the camel's back. For me, that was like the straw that broke the camel back in my second marriage. Was that verbal and him speaking from a emotional standpoint, because he wasn't able to regulate his emotions. And the way I perceived it was he felt that way all the time. So we have to really be careful about that. And then some things that as I go down the list of what it is not, healthy emotional regulation is not avoiding or a negative or strong emotions, because when you avoid those emotions or you don't speak about them, what happens is that it just builds up. And there's an old thing I used to hear people say where they say pressure busts a pipe. So sometimes when you don't experience those emotions or you bottle them up or you hide them, when they come out, it's almost like a buildup. And so you will respond in a way that you wouldn't have normally respond because of the buildup. You know what I mean? And I think it's similar to what I just said, breaking the camel's back, the straw that broke camel's back. So you need to really so healthy emotion regulation is not you avoiding these emotions. You have to go through them. And then what it is not also is failing to evaluate whether your actions or the actions of others are harmful. So you have to be able. So it's saying that it's not. So in other words, if you fail to look at what you're doing as harmful, then you're not practicing healthy emotional regulations. And then out of there's like 6 or 7 different bullets here, but another one that I would like to express is using unhealthy efforts to avoid or change your emotions. In other words, such as isolation or addiction or aggression. So when you are trying to mask these things or avoid them, sometimes I like to watch Soft White Underbelly, and that's a really popular thing on YouTube. And this is not an advertisement for him, trust me, but I just really enjoy it because I'm able to look at people's from a different perspective in terms of their life, just other people's experiences when he interviews these different people. And some of them are drug users. Some of them are, they do certain things for a living, whether it's, walking the street corner or the man that is in charge of the women that walk the street corners, right? It's different types of people that's on there. But one thing that I remember him saying, or many people say, especially the ones who are addicted to different drugs or alcohol or whatever, or even the street life, they always say that they use whatever their vice is as a coping mechanism because they're not able to really deal with some trauma that they experienced in life. And so they become addicted to certain things so they can avoid that. And so I just use that as an example to say avoidance is definitely not a way for you to practice emotional healthy regulation, because if you're avoiding something, then if you're avoiding going through it, then you're not practicing it. And so all you're going to do is just keep on bottling those things up, and then before you know it, you're using something to mask it, and that mask that you use can be often be damaging. You know what I mean? For lasting damage. Addiction or isolation or whatever. You know what I mean? So You definitely want to be aware of that. Did you want to add some, Ronnie? You're on mute.
No, this is awesome. I truly believe this is perfect because one of the biggest ways, we've gotten to this space where people are quick to shut down any form of what they want to say is addressing, things that they need to address. And they shut it down, don't want to talk. Everything that they disagree with, they consider an argument.
Right,
I'm practicing self love. I'm practicing peace.
right,
And I've said to people, I said, listen, it's easy to sit here and take your ass and go up on a mountain
right,
and be like the wise man or wise woman and shut out the world and say that self love, when in the reality and in the real world is that you have to deal with people.
right.
So if you're not able to manage that, and here's the other thing too, this is one of the reasons why sometimes, or even why this is so important. As we're going into yet another holidays, bunch of holidays, you know, one of the reasons that a lot of this creates a whole bunch of anxiety because sometimes we have family members
Hmm.
that know your triggers. And see, part of this self-regulation is being able to not just in the things that you deal with on a daily basis, be it the job or your business or whatever, but just sometimes family members that
Hmm.
just wants to, for whatever reason, wants to create mess.
Hmm.
And what Yashika and I really focus on in that space when we're coaching is getting people to understand that one of the reasons that you want to be able to learn to regulate yourself because there will be people who just purposely want to try you. Misery enjoys company. They're
Right.
projecting their BS on you. And you
Hmm.
have to be able to look at them and smile. And sometimes you'll come up with something sly, slick, or whatever, or you just walk away, or you say something as simple as, you know what, I forgive you. Or saying,
Right.
hey, you know what, that's for you to work on. I have a good therapist that you can speak to
Right.
for that. So these are those things that it's so key. Now, I had another thought that I was going to share, but it's key. It really, really is key. But know that it's not just about blocking out people. You know, it's about being able to manage the people that
Hmm.
you are going to be around. Because
Absolutely.
unfortunately, we're just in a world of such deflection and projection. And again, I see it all the time on all the social media platforms and people with the passive aggressive and the whole I don't need to know who needs to hear this and when they know damn well who they're
Right.
directing this at. It really is pretty cowardly, but nonetheless, then you'll have those people who will say, well, look, let them live, whatever.
Hmm.
Focus on you, focus on the inside, but get to a point where you just accept the fact that there's just going to be places and people that are going to try you, and you need to equip yourself to a point where, again, you're not going to let that bother you. You're just going to smile, nod your head, or say "bless you, child," whatever you need to do, but be able to strengthen yourself inside and internally and work on those emotions as a thing going on, and or even a bad date. You get some man who is asking you questions that you really just at one point used to set up your triggers, and now you're mentally equipped to address this in a way to let him know you're not that one, and vice versa for those men that are dealing with that woman who's just her mindset on men. And you're wondering, well, hell, why is she even dating in the first place with this mindset? And you just, instead of focusing on how much money you probably wasted,
Right.
you just want to say, you know what, I get it. She's coming from this place, and I'm going to deal with this accordingly so
Hmm.
that we both understand where we stand and we move on. But you still wish her well instead of cursing her out and calling her every name but the child of God. You can just
Yeah.
say, you know what, I hear where she's coming from, and I'm just going to address it accordingly. She's not there, she's not ready, and I'm definitely not the one. So we will proceed. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this evening the best way I can, and then, or you just may just say, check, please,
Hmm.
whatever that may be. But and you can recognize it so that you could be at a space of peace and just move forward.
Absolutely. And you make some great points. Definitely a person needs to make sure that they are checking on themselves, meaning that you cannot have have people will not respond or act the way you want them to, right? You can't control what other people say and do and how they receive things. All you can do is control yourself. And one of the things that I will offer to someone who, as a suggestion to kind of think about these things is, a matter of fact, I have 3 points. Number one, just being really honest about what you feel. Being honest about what you're going through. Don't let your pride or anything like that, block you from expressing yourself. Because some people will say, well, I'm not going to tell that person that, that I was hurt or that that bothered me or I enjoyed this, because they like, that makes me look this way, it makes me look that way, so they want to express themselves, but definitely be honest about the way you feel, then that way, because you never know how that person may perceive it. They may look at it like, wow, I was wondering how you felt about that, or I was wondering if you enjoyed that or if I offended you, and because you didn't mention anything, I didn't feel anything, but I really was wondering. So you never know. People may be waiting for you to express that because maybe there's something that they want to say as well. And so that's definitely number one, just being honest about it, being open about it. Um, and then number two, I would also say, if I was going to give somebody some advice, is to definitely sometimes before we react or before we speak, especially if you are in a heated conversation, um, take a step back. Take a step back and say, okay, you know what? Let me before I respond, let me count to five or let me count to 10. And you'll be amazed of the way things come out once you take that pause to really think about what it is you're saying before you say it, right? I think a lot of times people don't do that. We're so quick to get out what we want to say and respond that we don't pause like we should. And having that pause, can save a lot of relationships, can save a lot of marriages, a lot of, whatever. If people just take that minute or them couple of seconds to pause. And so that was my number two. And I think I had a number three, but I can't remember right now. But and like I said, just being honest and open, taking that pause that you need before you say anything, and making sure. And I would say my number three is when it comes to self, understand that you're going to feel how you feel. Somebody else is going to feel how they feel. And there's nothing you can do about that. So deal with your emotions and then let them deal with their emotions, right? And so in other words, just self-awareness, just self-understanding, self-control more or less of yourself. And when we say those words, self this, self-control, self-regulation, self whatever, the preempt to that is self, not others. It's not about other regulations or other discoveries or other whatever. You can't control another person. So it's about self. That's it, self. And so, what are some three things that you think a person can do, or some things, whether it be three or one, that you would also advise somebody to do when it comes to emotion regulation?
You pretty much beat me to it, Yashika. But see, this is all the more reason why I encourage for those listening, and if you're having some challenges with that, to reach out to Yashika. Again, qualified. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, you can only control, focus, and manage you.
Hmm.
Period. End of story. And
Yeah.
accept that. A lot of you understand because see, people, and I'm trying to make, we are in such a drama-driven society,
Mhm.
and I say that because when we talk about just in I believe it was point number two, Yashika, and I'm always telling people, look, if there's one thing Ronnie Walker is very good at, is to the point sometimes where people just say, Ron, you sound too calculated, too clinical, too whatever the term that they use is because
Mhm.
I really try to rewind the tape and process what I heard before responding. And we're in such a clapback driven society,
Yeah.
for clicks and all of this and that one liner hit. You see the media has been a big part of this for many years.
Mhm.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is important. We can come up, I'm sure, and give you a list of 50 things. But just those three things that Yashika communicated, if you really focus on this, you'd be surprised is how much better your dating, career, job, business will be.
Mhm.
Because this is how you have to just understand, accept people for who they are. You can control, again, even, and listen, when I speak of the spaces of even the way we speak and communicate. Yes, you can attract more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. But here's one thing I do. There are people who do like vinegar. There are those people who, if you want to speak to them, they like it straight, no chaser. Others want the tone to be a bit more balanced. As Yashika and I mentioned, if that person's not in the positive state, I don't care how you communicate that to that person. It can be the straight up truth, something that they need to address. If they're not mentally in a state where they are ready to receive that, you can whisper it. You could jump up and down. You could smile. You could say, I love you first. They're not ready to receive that.
Right.
So all you can do is just say, okay, well, when you do communicate, and that, let's just say they weren't ready to receive it, and they hit you back, then
Hmm.
you just as when I tell people, where you'll read it in books, or where they say just count to 10, or now you've got the thing, I believe it's on one of the platforms, Instagram, whatever, where the kids are bothering the mother or whatever, and then she starts clapping or they start clapping, say, Holy Spirit, activate. It's just like,
Right. Right.
before I really get into this thing and really go off, calm me down. And
Right.
so, again, really take time to measure your words and your thoughts. And of course, even if that means just, you may have to communicate, look, when I first heard this is how I was going to come at you,
Hmm.
you know. But after thinking about it, maybe I didn't receive it the way you intended it, So
Right.
let me just, whatever. This is why I took a minute. And trust me, the right people will understand that,
Absolutely.
because sometimes our own assumptions, in most cases, are wrong.
Hmm.
So, with that being said, just expounding on what you've already communicated, Yashika, is that I'm just really big on the number two. We're just saying, get it. People sometimes are really looking to pass on their miserableness, their issues, they're projecting, and you just have to step back and say, okay, I'm not going to deal with this today or at this moment, and I'm going to take the time and respond accordingly after I've thought about it, and says, so it could be breathing, whatever it takes you need to
Right.
do, but find out what it is for you, use that, and you'll be surprised of how much better your communications, interactions with people, and as in this space, dating and relationships, it'll be much better.
Yeah, absolutely. And the points that you made definitely align with the points that I made. And so all of that is really great advice. And so just as I said at the beginning of the stream, if we just start to understand that sometimes the way that we've done things, throughout our whole lives, we never really were told how to do certain things. So we only know how to do it one way, right? And sometimes we're showing up not in our best selves because we've gotten really comfortable with just doing things one way. And we don't take the time out to really step outside of ourselves and evaluate what we're doing so that maybe this can get you to that next level, whatever that level looks like for you. And so you guys know Ronnie and I are really into the dating space, and so in the relationship space. And so we just really wanted to bring this particular thing to light, just as advice. And just like anything that we say or do, there's always more than one way to do things. But we really just come from a place of love and wanting to see people just really come together and have those life partners and those marriages and all those things. Because like I always said, let's get to the love so we can get to love making. And that's what it's ultimately about. So again, we wanted to start the 12 days till Christmas, to just give everyone just a little bit of things that they can do. And for this first block, like I said before, for these next 3 days, we're talking things that relate to the dating mindset. And today it was emotional regulation. And if you're viewing this from YouTube or in my particular group, or excuse me, on my feed, just go ahead and make sure you go over to the Ronnie Yashika's Dating Discussions group and follow us there. Also, if you want to schedule an appointment with Ronnie or myself, the everything is in the descriptions as well as our bios and Facebook. And then also you can check us out at datingdiscussions.com, where you can book with us or do a consultation or something like that to see if Ronnie or myself is someone that you want to work with in order to get to that next step of dating and finding someone that you can spend the rest of your life with. And so these right here, these 12 days won't be our usual 1 hour or hour and a half shows, but we just want to make sure that you guys get the information. And so Ronnie, is there any last minute things you want to say? You're on mute.
Okay, I'm gonna get this turned together. I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, we have experience, we have the resources, we have tools, and I can assure you that what Yashika and I have to offer is of value to you, your dating experiences moving forward, and in your relationships, and in the space of sex as well. There's nothing more exceptional than exceptional sex during the holidays, leading up to Valentine's Day, and there are
Right.
levels to this. And so I am sure that Yashika and I can provide you that space. Stay positive.
Mhm.
You know, for this time of year, I know there are those challenges, and this season for the past year, year and a half, 2 years has been a challenge in many. And so just create the mindset that whatever happened in the past is not going to happen. If it is negative, is not going to happen in the future. I want you to remain and keep a positive outlook in the dating space, and don't let whatever happened in the past, no matter how many dates you went on, um, don't let that dictate what can happen for the new year coming. And you don't have to wait officially to 2022. You can start that mindset today. So that is
Absolutely.
pretty much what it is. And again, continue to tune in and go to dating discussions to reach out to Yashika and I, so that we can continue to provide you all of those tools and resources that you need to move forward in your dating relationship and sex.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, if you're not following us on IG, be sure to follow us there at the Ronnie and Yashika's Dating Discussions, and also on YouTube with the same title. And so thank you guys for tuning in. And if you dropped in after this, make sure you hashtag replay and leave a comment. Let us know what you think about this, or shoot us a DM, or or email at ronnyashika@gmail.com, and let us know if there's some things that you want us to discuss, or some questions that you may have that you wanted to discuss on a broader stage. And so I'll see you guys tomorrow. And Ronnie, thank you so much, and it's been a
Thank you,
pleasure. And I'll
Yashika.
talk to you later.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye bye
Have a
now.
good day, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Have a good